and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday. On today's show, we are talking about the Liberals' $1 billion slush fund, so please like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Of course, if you want Pierre Poilievre to be the next Prime Minister, eyes and ears have to see and listen to the message here because you're not getting it from the mainstream media. So you can listen to it, tell your friends, download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. So to talk about that slush fund, much more, we have Michael Barrett, a good friend of the show, coming back on once again, the Member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, also the critic for ethics. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
I got your writing right, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you knocked it out of the park.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, better than any of the speakers in the House are able to.
Absolutely. See, that's not what I'm auditioning for, though. So $1 billion slush fund, the Liberals have this green technology slush fund. You've been going at it hard at committee, trying to expose. Well, we'll talk about the $200,000 gift, but let's talk about the slush fund. What is it? What's going on? What are you doing at committee?
So Sustainable Development Technologies Canada has $1 billion taxpayer dollars and a Liberal appointed board chair who is supposed to be funding green tech startups. Whistleblowers came forward about a year ago and brought their concerns to the Prime Minister's Department, the Privy Council office. Well, they referred them to the Industry Minister's office. And so it
was a big priority.
It's a big priority.
Huge priority.
Big priority. And the Industry Minister then received an independent report that they had asked for from a company called Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, RCGT. And this report sampled just a small number of projects. So the slush fund has funded hundreds of projects. They sampled about 24, and they found $40 million in ineligible payments that were made. So funding that was not appropriate for the contribution agreement as it's set out by the rules that they have with the Government of Canada. So on just a handful of projects, they found $40 million. It identified gross mismanagement and conflicts of interest. So we had them at committee, and of course, there was a lot of resistance from the Liberals about getting these officials to come to committee. And within a 2-week period, we had the Auditor General investigating, even though the minister said there's nothing to see here. We have the CEO, who has now resigned under the Auditor General investigation, the cloud of that. Then I wrote to the Ethics Commissioner, the Interim Ethics Commissioner, identifying a problem with, you talked about this $200,000 number. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote a letter to the Ethics Commissioner, and the Ethics Commissioner says, yep, we're going to launch an investigation into the Liberal appointed board chair, Netver Sharon, and she resigned on learning that she's now under investigation, which it doesn't get her away from the light of it. So that's within 2 weeks. The CEO and the board chair both resigning, Auditor General and Ethics Commissioner investigation, and the Industry Minister said he has full confidence in the process and the board and doesn't want anyone to worry. They've got this well in hand, only $40 million.
It's all under control.
All under control.
So this board chair decides we're going to move a motion to give her company $200,000 in contracts.
Yeah, a little more than $200,000. And she said that it's fine. She didn't break any rules.
She's good.
She asked her lawyer, and her lawyer said, yep, that check will clear.
Gotcha. So I guess everyone would, $40 million, some questions around that. I guess she thought, well, might as well try to get my company some of this action.
Yeah, what's a couple $100,000 between friends, right? And when pressed, we also learned that the company that she controls, that she directed this $200,000+ to, she then drew $120,000 from that company. So
she's doing hard work.
Well, she would say so, and of course, this is a blatant conflict of interest. At the very least, it's the appearance of a conflict, but this stinks to the high heavens, and that's why a fact-finding exercise that was done, that RCGT report, found tens of millions of dollars in ineligible payments. And it's important to note, Jamie, that when the Auditor General, the Deputy Auditor General, came before a committee a couple of weeks ago, the Liberals said, well, this fund existed when there were Conservatives in government, so your audit's going to cover that period, right? And he said, absolutely not. The Auditor General investigated the Sustainable Development Technologies Canada through to 2017. Everything we're talking about has been part of the umbrella of corruption, scandal, waste, and mismanagement of Justin Trudeau and his NDP Liberal government. That's exactly what this Auditor General report's going to look at. And the Ethics Commissioner is specifically targeting Trudeau's handpicked chair. This is a Liberal corruption problem, and it's part of this pattern that we've seen, of course, that I've been on the show to talk about.
Too many times. So we have a slush fund given out to all these companies, $40 billion with a big question mark around it as we kind of dig deeper into it. Canadians are struggling. Canadians are hurting. There's a lot of misery out there, all created by this government. And we have proposed solutions for pretty much all of the problems that this government has created. At the same time, Liberals just continue to do what they do best, be Liberals, and just dig into the cookie jar. This is unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable because there's a blatant conflict of interest where you have the board chair who moves the motion herself, didn't just passively vote or just sit on her hands and not raise her hand when it was time to award her own company and herself this money, but moved the motion. And this is beyond. This is really what it looks like after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, because you said Canadians are struggling, and these insiders continue to get paid. They get paid if they're former Liberal MPs. We saw that with contracts, for ventilators that no one ever ordered or used. We've seen this with contracts for the small business minister's BFF. She awarded consulting contracts that are found guilty of breaking ethics laws. We see this time and time again, and it starts from the top down. Justin Trudeau found guilty twice of breaking Canada's ethics laws. But it always comes back to Liberals and Liberal insiders getting paid and Canadians paying the price. And it's happening at a time when they can least afford it. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see the numbers on paper about food bank usage. But I know that, over our constituency weeks and every time that we're in our community, we see firsthand people in our community and we hear from them who are struggling, people who are working one job, two jobs, and going to the food bank because of the policies of Justin Trudeau's government. And it's devastating for them to see this kind of corruption and insider dealing.
Well, out of the $400 billion that was created out of thin air, half of which the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that had nothing to do with COVID, but was couched in the language of COVID. Had the Liberals stuck to some fiscal responsibility through the crisis, the inflation misery that we're feeling, we're experiencing right now, that are hurting, as you said, regular, normal Canadians, might not have been so bad. But the Liberals just could not help themselves.
No, and it's stacked. It's one set of bad fiscal decisions stacked on top of others, and so their inflationary spending, which didn't address the needs of COVID like they claimed it had, but has been evidenced that was not the case. And it's made all the worse by their inflationary carbon tax, which they continue to hammer Canadians with. And the price at the grocery stores are just out of control. And the fight has been on to get private members' bills passed to have farmers exempt from the carbon tax for things like, grain drying and heating and cooling on their farms. And the Liberals are doing everything they can to block it, but we know that it's going to help take pressure off of food prices. Yep. We know that, and they are ideologically opposed to doing that. They claim that that this is all about doing the right thing for the environment, except when it's exposed to be a political agenda item, and they saw that it was causing them political pain in Atlantic Canada, and that's why they exempted oil heat from their carbon tax. It's ludicrous. It's 100% political, and it is driving pain for millions of Canadians.
It's not about helping people at that point. If you are taking off the tax because you are going to lose potential seats in certain parts of the country, That's not about helping people. It's not about going, well, we understand people are struggling. You can't feed your families, maybe not pay the mortgage. You're being evicted from your apartment. It's about, well, we might lose the next election. We can't have that. So let's take away our policy, our key priority that they said was going to save the planet. They're taking it away for a few years until after the next election. And then those in Atlantic Canada and elsewhere that are struggling now, they will feel the increased price when it comes back.
And they've said, and this undermines their entire argument, that 80% of Canadians get back more from the carbon tax rebates than they pay into it. Well, if that were the case,
keep it on.
Why do they need to take it off? Why are they exempting the dirtiest form of home heating from the carbon tax if people are better off for paying it? So aren't they actually, by their own logic, taking money out of people's pockets? Of course, that's not what's happening. This scheme that they have, trying to dupe people into thinking that they're getting back more than they pay in, it just goes back to the root where they believe that that money, comes out of thin air, that people can draw more out than they're actually.
And there'll be no consequences when you create currency, when you expand the money supply.
Well, that's right. It's a part of a series of broken political promises by Justin Trudeau. They said the budget was going to balance itself, and now Canadians are being crushed by debt servicing costs in this country, costing tens of billions of dollars. And the pain is real every day. And all the while, corruption runs rampant in Liberal Ottawa.
I think this is the fundamental difference, one of the many fundamental differences between Liberals and Conservatives, right? Conservatives want you, the individual, to have as much money as you can, while obviously funding certain government services, but then being able to make your choice based on what's best for your situation. The Liberals would like to take as much money as they can get from you and then decide what you then qualify for in terms of grants, in terms of credits, that type of thing, right? In Atlantic Canada, they're saying heat pumps are the way to go, right? Right or wrong, that's for the individual to decide. But at this point, it's the government that has said, this is the one and only path that we want you to follow. And if you do, you get some money back.
Well, and they claim that it's always done in this wealth redistribution scheme, that they're taking from the haves and giving it to the have-nots. But as evidenced by scandal after scandal, tens of millions of dollars, we saw that they racked up massive consulting costs to ask consultants about how to save money on consultant spending. And this year, the Liberal government, though they promised that they would reduce spending on consultants, will have spent more on outside consulting agencies while having the largest public service in history. So they've never spent more on consultants, and they've never had more public servants. So it's baffling. But why is the money going to these consulting firms? Because they're insiders. These are friends of the Prime Minister. These are friends of the Liberals. So it's not about giving money to the have-nots. It's about giving money to the have-yots. They always want to improve the standing of their friends and Liberal insiders, their donors.
And I'm sure there's the donations back at some point. I'm sure, or in some fashion, some way, volunteers, who knows. Before I get on to the next topic, what is next at committee as you investigate this green billion-dollar slush fund? What are you doing next?
Well, we need more information. This all came to light because of whistleblower revelations. So we're going to look to have the whistleblower come before committee. We've got to get through the interference of the NDP Liberal government so that we can actually get it on the committee agenda. It's incredibly important. But since we first brought this forward, Conservatives brought this motion forward at committee, and we fought tooth and nail to have hearings on this. Like I said, we have an Auditor General investigation after I wrote to the Auditor General. We have an Ethics Commissioner investigation after I wrote to the Ethics Commissioner. We have the CEO who's resigned and the board chair who have resigned after we questioned them at committee. So we're gonna have to hear what the whistleblower has to say. I'll leave you with this, Jamie. When we asked the minister, Philippe Francois Champagne, if he'd read the 300-page dossier that was given to the ministry by the whistleblowers, He said, no, I haven't read that. Of course.
Why would you waste his time with that?
Why? Because he knows what it says, that his buddies and buddies of the Liberal Prime Minister are taking Canadians for a ride. Liberal insiders get paid, Canadians pay the price, and we're going to keep digging.
Well, actually, Canadians are paying the price. Mortgage rates, people are struggling with the new refinancing that's coming up and will come up. Let's cue up cut 3. We have a little exchange in the House of Commons between our leader, Pierre Poilievre, and the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Let's cue up cut 3, and we'll discuss it in just a second.
And now 1/5 of all Canadians are actually unable to pay the interest on their mortgages. Their mortgages are growing in size. When they renew, it will be at a bigger principal at a higher rate. Yep. How many Canadians will go bankrupt, and will we have a mortgage crisis when that happens? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Speaker, we know Canadians are struggling right now. I heard from a mom from Oakville who actually said that her mortgage costs went up the same amount as her childcare costs came down. Thank God they canceled each other out, but people should be doing better than that. That's why we're going to be able to continue to be there for Canadians.
What's the solution? Another government program.
It's unbelievable.
How out of touch is this Prime Minister?
And this is their plan. They're going to borrow more money to shell out to Canadians who are hurting because of the policies.
The same path we took to get here.
It's exasperating to listen to Justin Trudeau talk about this. I know that we're on the verge of a fall economic statement, and we'll have a budget soon thereafter. I get asked all the time. I'm sure you do too. Well, what are your solutions? So we hear what your problems are with the Liberals. Our solutions are very straightforward, and I am certain that in tomorrow's fall economic statement, and I'm certain that in the upcoming budget, that the Liberals aren't going to take the path of least resistance to get the answer. Why? Because they're common sense solutions, and our common sense solutions are very straightforward. Less bureaucracy so that we can build homes. But his answer is always about programs and bureaucracy.
It's big government and bigger government, 2 speeds.
Exactly. And their carbon tax. They're going to, not only are they keeping the carbon tax in place for the majority of Canadians on the majority of things, which is driving up the price of heating homes, feeding families, putting gas in the car so people can get to work at doctor's appointments. They're not just going to keep it on. They're going to raise the price of everything. They're going to quadruple that tax. So it's unbelievable. They also need to stop their inflationary spending. The problem is that they don't know that they have this problem, and the best thing that they can do is to just stop spending. If they have something else they need to spend money on, they need to do exactly what people do in their households, what people in our communities do, what we do in our own households. If you have a new dollar of spending, you have to find a dollar of savings, because there's a limit every single month, and they don't understand that, and they just keep spending the cupboards bare.
Well, it's common sense, and common sense isn't too common in the Liberal caucus these days. Let's quickly talk about the fall economic statement. Then we got to get out of here. It's coming down in just a few hours. So let's cue up cut number 2. It's the finance minister and all her wisdom here talking about what she's going to do. Let's play cut 2.
Next Tuesday, I will be delivering our government's fall economic statement. Our fall economic statement is based on a responsible fiscal plan that allows us to invest in what Canadians need right now. That is why the fall economic statement will be focused on 2 key challenges: making life more affordable for Canadians and taking further concrete action on housing. We know this is an urgent priority for Canadians, and we believe that at the heart of this issue is supply, supply, supply.
Well, I'm not sure if you're going to be addressing the supply issue if your bureaucracy is bigger than it's ever been in Canadian history. At the same time, you're not going to, as you said a few minutes ago, tackle the affordability crisis if you're continuing to borrow to pay your priorities.
Yeah, exactly. They continue to raise taxes on Canadians when they can least afford it, and they're borrowing money for programs that aren't going to address the needs that Canadians have today. And my goodness, I have never seen so many photo ops and press releases to address a problem. It took them the better part of a year to spend a nickel, or to announce the spending of a nickel out of their so-called housing accelerator fund, and they built nothing. They built no houses. So it concerns me to hear that they're going to talk about opening the floodgates of spending so they can get things built when more than a year after they announced this housing accelerator fund. And of course, this comes from the Prime Minister, who in the last couple months, 4 months, said that housing isn't even a federal responsibility. That's because he's failed to deliver on his successive campaign promises to address the housing crisis in this country. And frankly, his policies are driving that housing crisis. And I don't expect to see real solutions, common sense solutions in the economic update from the finance minister today. So we're going to keep pushing. We've heard from our leader Pierre Poilievre the common sense solutions that this Liberal government can adopt. We know that they're not going to pick up the conservative, all of our conservative ideas and say, okay, let's march forward with this. But my goodness, just stop raising taxes on Canadians. That's something that they can do today. If they want to tackle affordability, that should be the top line in the minister's announcement later today. You know what? We're not going to spend anything new, and we're not going to raise any taxes, and we'll have a new budget in the spring.
And I don't know if their NDP dance partners would be okay with that.
Oh my goodness, I know there would be tens of millions of Canadians who would see that light at the end of the tunnel if they heard that. But I don't think they're going to see that kind of common sense and better until we have the opportunity to take it to the polls.
I can't agree with you more. As you know, the guests always get the last word, and we are pretty much out of time. Michael Barrett, the floor is yours.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here always, Jamie, and have the opportunity to share this message with Canadians. Waste, corruption, scandal, and mismanagement, it's been the hallmark of this NDP Liberal government. And after 8 years, it's on full display yet again why Justin Trudeau's not worth the cost. And we're going to bring home accountability for Canadians. So I encourage everyone to stay tuned and share this message with their neighbors, because it's so important that we expose this government for who they are.
Michael Barrett, thank you very much for coming on. The Member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island, and Rideau Lakes, also the Shadow Minister for Ethics. Thank you for your time. Thank you for yours as well. Remember, we have new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. I guarantee you do not hear this message in the mainstream media, so we need these ears to hear it. We need the eyes to see it. You can also download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Till next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blue.